Norfolk, and this is the first of 4 programmes bringing you the best of the action from the classes that support the British Touring Car Championship. Later in the show, we'll see the Quaife Mini Challenge drivers on track. First of all, though, it's the Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain, and that sees just a single point between Cian Jewis and Will Martin at the top of the table. Ready to call all the action are Tim Harvey and David Addison.
Cian Jewis starts on pole position for round 9 of Porsche Carrera Cup GB, with Gus Burton lining up second, and the second row, Theo Edgerton, and the Pro-Am pole sitter and championship leader Charles Rainford. Josh Malin is on the third row, Adam Smalley lines up alongside him. Row 4 is where you find Will Martin and Oliver White ahead of Matty Graham and Hugo Ellis, with Angus Whiteside and Nathan Harrison sharing row 6 of the grid. Row 7 has Mika Stanley alongside Jake Giddings. Ryan Ratcliffe is on row 8 alongside Josh Stanton, as yet unbeaten in the AM contest. Charles Bateman is on row 9, and so too is Will Aspin. Justin Sherwood is on the 10th row with newcomer Ian Loggie, the British GT Championship leader, and it's Nigel Rice who rounds out the grid. The grid is formed and a 40-minute race in prospect. There's no pit stop, but it's a long race in terms of track time. Not a set number of laps. The flag goes out the first time the leader crosses the line. Once 40 minutes are up. Cian Jewis then on pole position, looks towards the lights. It's going to be fascinating this to see how drivers manage this long race, with temperatures increasing throughout the 40 minutes. The lights go red, engine notes rise. When the lights go out, we go racing. Slightly hesitant start by Jewis. Good getaway by Gus Burton from the outside of the front row. Theo Edgerton also losing out a little bit on the run down towards Riches for the first time. And it's going to be Gus Burton who leads the way. Charles Rainford goes second. He was absolutely demon in qualifying. They're 3 wide for third, and a bit of rubbing taking place as the cars come up towards Wilson for the first time. Great start by Burton, and it's all kicking off behind as they just about scrabble through the hairpin together.
Wow, that was a dramatic first couple of laps. A hesitant start from Jewis, but he made up for it. He was 4th going into turn 1, but then he managed to hang it out side by side and then past Rainford as well. He's now up to 2nd again.
So as the cars come out of turn 3, you can see what's going on as Edgerton fights back on the inside there. Look, tries to make his move on the inside of number 90, which is Josh Malin, back in the championship, replacing the injured Jack Bartholomew, and going really well. Josh Malin was 5th on the grid. He's already gained ground from that, and we know how good he is from his previous exploits in the championship. New car, though, for him for this season, and he's joined in late, so he's giving away quite a bit of mileage, quite a bit of experience against the rest, but you wouldn't think it as they wriggle their way through the infield for the first time then, from Hamilton up towards Oggies, then right again from Williams onto Bentley Straight. 3 classes, remember, so battles throughout the field as Charles Bateman there in 77 gets busy with Mika Stanley. Onto Bentley Straight, down towards Brundle and Nelson for the first time. Perfect place here to try and draft the opposition.
Well, draft the opposition. Track temperature is already up at 24.5 degrees, and this will be the longest race of the year for the Porsche Carrera Cup. 40 minutes in this temperature. Air temperature is 27 degrees already. Remember, these guys are wearing 3-layer fireproof overalls, so this is going to be a long race. Tyre management, body management, hydration at breakfast, probably the most important things in this race.
So down they come to the end of the first lap. The Snetterton 300 circuit, just under 3 miles in length. There's only really 2 elements where there's a really heavy stop. One is the hairpin up at turn 2. The other you've just seen coming through turn 12 approach. Matty Graham you're riding on board with as he goes across the timing line. He is 9th. That's Oliver White ahead of him. And Oliver White unlocked something at Knock Hill, didn't he? Had his best weekend of the championship there, and that confidence has prevailed here as well. White having a look up the inside as they break now, turn their way into the hairpin, and his teammate Adam Smalley on his toes as well to try to gain ground. Burton leading Jewis by 7/10.
Yeah, it's a good start by Burton. He did exactly what he needed to do from the outside of the front row and took advantage of that poor start for Jewis. Uncharacteristic, actually, but Jewis, obviously angered by his bad start, is fighting back and is actually catching Jewis on this lap.
So the race leaders wriggle their way through the infield for the second time. Gus Burton ahead of Cian Jewis, Theo Edgerton behind him. Good little scrap further back. Will Martin, who's had 3 wins this year, fending off Oliver White's challenge, and Adam Smalley as well. He's put himself up past Adam Smalley now into 6th place. So making progress forward all the time is Will Martin. Not a great qualifying effort yesterday, but he's racing well.
Yeah, always races well. Will Martin, very much a racer. He loves to get stuck in. He's meek and mild outside of the car, but boy, when he puts that crash helmet on, does his demeanour turn into a very competitive animal.
Down they come towards Brundle and Nelson, the old S's. So Gus Burton then trying to make good his escape as there, wide goes Charles Rainford, and Will Martin dives up the inside, coming into bomb hole, and he goes through, and the door is open for Adam Smalley to have a go. But look at Rainford fighting back on the outside line. The door is still ajar, and Smalley dives through. That was a good opportunistic pass.
It was, of course. Charles Rainford's in the Pro-Am category, so he doesn't need to fight these guys too hard to stay in front of his Pro-Am rivals, so hence him giving them a bit more room. But another fantastic qualifying effort by Charles Rainford, well in front of many of the pro drivers.
He did look at one stage as though he might be on for pole position. The leaders go by, and Cian Jewis then a little bit closer to the leader, Gus Burton. He's also now done the fastest lap of the race, so Cian Jewis responding from that duff start. Mika Stanley has dropped a long way back as you see the cars again dive down towards Wilson. That was Oliver White getting into the back there of Charles Rainford, and this is where Rainford has got to be careful. He's got to pick his battles. Yeah,
because noticeably a bit slower on the brakes into the Wilson hairpin. I've noticed Charles Rainford. He got overtaken on lap 1 and he just slows up a bit. Here's the replay, just coming in. Oh, that was the pass on Rainford coming in the bomb hole that opened the door for Smalley as well in the Duckham's car to get through. Theo Edgerton there, the reigning Sprint Cup champion for Cayman's. Oh, and we've had Loggy and Rice off.
So 2 cars off, the big dust storm, as those AMs that were squabbling have come to grief. Ian Loggy tries to get going. I don't think Nigel Rice's car is going to get going again by the look of it. So it's a great shame that that battle has ended up in an incident between the two of them. So you've got Ian Loggy trying to rejoin. Here are the race leaders, and Gus Burton then ahead of Cian Jewis, and Nigel Rice with a lot of damage. That looks like it's gone over because the rear wing has been ripped off and the car is not going to move. So this looks like it's going to be a safety car. And let's have a look at exactly what happened. He was having that battle with Ian Loggy, so he gets it wrong coming into the first part of the S's. That gives Ian Loggy a chance to challenge on the inside heading into bomb hole. Nigel Rice leaves the door open, then comes across, makes contact, goes over once, and a sort of corkscrew effect as well. So 2 or 3 big jarring impacts in that. Very spectacular. Another angle, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, he made a mess of it and should have probably expected Ian Loggy to come up the inside, but the contact was very early in the corner on the right rear tyre. So, I mean, Nigel Rice hadn't scrubbed off any speed, so that ended up in a high-speed, jarring roll. That was really quite nasty to watch. These two have been having a good race. This was a mistake from Rice turning through the left-hand part of Brundle, which made him slow coming out of Nelson. Loggy, in fairness, gets a good run and probably would have expected a bit of room, and whether Nigel just didn't see him coming or whatever, but that was a nasty. The ground is like concrete here, and that you could see from Nigel when he got out of the car. He jarred his back, but he's out of the car. But at 65 years of age, Nigel didn't really want to be doing that, I'm sure.
Safety car will be in this time, and while they have been accelerating up to the restart, a mistake made by Will Martin, who has run wide and cost himself a place. Now, technically, you can't overtake under the safety car. We've not yet had a green flag, but when a car runs out wide, what do? Do you sit tight or do you make the move? Well, we'll let the officials discuss that as Gus Burton leads on the restart. Cian Jewis second, Theo Edgerton is third, fourth Josh Malin, but Adam Smalley then, number 21, up into fifth at the expense of Will Martin after he made that mistake. Yeah,
it looked like a slightly cold tyre. He locked up. I even thought for a minute he might have had a puncture, which was probably exactly the same thing that was thought by Adam Smalley, because it looked like he was going off the circuit. In fact, he did put wheel on the dirt, so I think overtaking at that point is probably fairly understandable.
True enough. As the leader, Gus Burton, comes down now towards Agostini. This is lap 11 then. We've got just over 17.5 minutes of the race to go. Theo Edgerton given a lifeline by that safety car period because he's caught back up to Jewis, who is now having to attack and defend. He's going after the leader, Gus Burton. Adam Smalley hanging on to that fifth place that was sort of gifted to him. In terms of the classes, Charles Rainford is still ahead in Pro-Am, and the leading Am is Josh Stanton. Number 2 is Oliver White, and he's still being pressured hard by Matty Graham.
Yeah, so well, the drivers have had a nice little breather, haven't they? A chance to just recover their breath and their here we see the moment. Watch the car coming into view, locking up now and running off the road. So he didn't quite run all the way off the road, but you would have thought if you were the car following when you're already going that he had a problem. Oh, and that's Hugo Ellis.
It is.
Definitely off the road. So I wonder if there was something down on the track there for 2 cars to go off their same point, but unusual.
Now for the race lead, it's down to a tenth of a second, and suddenly Cian Jewett is looking very menacing as far as the lead is concerned. Tries the outside line into the Wilson hairpin, looks to get the undercut coming out of the corner. Gus Burton, who's been rapid all season, finally claimed that win at Knock Hill, but he might not be able to win this because Jewett is going from one side to the other, trying to unsettle the race leader's car. He's trying to find a gap as well. Cian Jewett may not have made the best of starts, but he's racing well, flashing the lights to try to distract the reigning GT4 British GT champion. They're together coming into Agostini, and Jewett now is looking more like when rather than if he gets the race lead. They're almost level. He's on the lights. There's contact. He's going to go through on the inside, and Cian Jewett takes over the lead, goes a little bit wide over the curb. Cian, the championship leader, has only had one win this year. He wants a second, and he's now going the right way about it. Finally, he's ahead of Burton.
Well, he definitely got some more pace after this restart, has Cian Jewett, because he was on the attack. I love this bit when you're little coming up next. He flashes the lights when he's already alongside. Look, I love that. A little bit of a tap from Burton trying to close the door, but he then gives him room on the apex, most importantly.
So as the cars stream then onto Bentley Straight, number 10 there is Will Martin, who struggled a little bit in this race. I know he made that mistake and lost one spot, but that's a car that, even now with a quarter of the race to go, has never quite come alive. Look at this as you see the cars running wide, and you also see how there's that step behind the curb, and it's that step and bringing it back over onto the red and white curbing that's doing tyres damage.
It is doing tyres damage indeed. It's not what you want to do, is to drag the car across a hard edge like that and cause a problem for your tyres. But talking of problems, Jewett has a black and white warning flag for track limits already. That's our leader, Cian Jewett.
Indeed so, and he's got to be careful. There it is, the driving standards flag, 26, Cian Jewett's number. 9 minutes of the race to go, as you can see. The boards are there from the marshals to illustrate the warning. The pit boards from the teams with lap times and gaps. Cian Jewett then now will think about having to just temper his pace a little to make sure he doesn't keep going wide, and he's virtually perfect through Riches that time around. He leads by over a second. Bit ragged in the background again was Will Martin, hooking the back of the car out wide. But Cian Jewett now just needs to control this. He only has to win by 1,000th as long as he wins. He
does, but there are plenty of corners here where track limits can be infringed, so he doesn't actually know where he's committed the offence initially. This is the exit of Palmer's is one of the corners where they have pressure plates and cameras, so that's one potential place, but he's just got to keep it neat and tidy now.
Charles Bateman ahead of Ryan Ratcliffe here. This is 4th and 5th in Pro-Am. Charles Bateman returning to racing this season, having been a Carrera Cup GB regular and then a British GT front-runner a good few seasons ago. And Ryan Ratcliffe was one of the pace setters in Pro-Am last year. So coming out of Agostini, short straight up towards Hamilton now through the infield, this almost paperclip style infield to the Snetterton circuit, the so-called 300 layout, nearly 3 miles long this lap. And for overall 13th and 14th, Bateman fending off Ratcliffe for the moment.
Yeah, the battle in Pro-Am all very close actually behind Charles Rainford. You've got Nathan Harrison, Angus Whiteside, Bateman and Ratcliffe all very close together on the road. So that class is working out very well.
And Hugo Ellis, I think, would be up there were it not for the fact that he's had these couple of moments as the field then again streams out of Brundle and Nelson through the S's. That's Nathan Harrison dropping back a little bit, and if anything now for Pro-Am, it's 2nd and 3rd, isn't it? Rainford still has the gap, so they're 2nd, Nathan Harrison, and 3rd behind him. Number 52, Angus Whiteside, another newcomer to Carrera Cup this year, stepping up from Ginetta's.
Yeah, stepping up from Ginetta GT Academy as well, so very much the junior form of Ginetta racing. But Angus Whiteside actually having a terrific year, and it's only getting better. He had 2 podiums, his first podium quickly followed by his second up at Knock Hill, and he was absolutely delighted with that, and he's now on for another podium and looking very much a contender in the Pro-Am class.
All of this mileage all helps, doesn't it, as the race leaders stream through. Cian Jewett now 0.8 of a second to the good. Last time the gap down by 0.4. So Gus Burton is not giving up here. You're looking at the battle a little bit lower down. Oliver White fending off Jake Giddings. Charles Rainford is next in the queue, but for the race lead, the gap was down last time, and it's down again by 1/10 in the first sector.
Yeah, and it was actually 4/10 quicker that Burton was than Jewett, and this is probably Jewett just having to be so careful about track limits now he's had the official warning.
Very wide there is Oliver White up onto the curb on the exit of Agostini. So we've got now just over 6 minutes remaining. A lap is round about the 1:51, the high 1:51s, low 1 minute 52 mark. And a lap time disallowed for Matty Graham. He's not been given a penalty, but he's lost a lap time for track limits. Sorry, not Matty Graham, I can tell you a lie. Hugo Ellis on lap 16. So Hugo Ellis losing a lap time. All that's going to do is, were he in the running for the fastest lap in class, he would potentially lose that lap. But Hugo Ellis, who's had a couple of excursions and is in 16th place overall, then loses a lap time. 5.5 minutes on the clock and a 5-second penalty for the race leader for track limits. So Hugo Ellis gets a penalty in terms of losing a lap time, but the leader gets a time penalty. There it is. It'll be applied post-race. So now there, Cian Duis has not only got to win, but he's got to win by 5 seconds plus. He goes over the line.
He can't do it. There's only 5 minutes left. This is going to drop him back to 5th or 6th place. An absolute disaster for Cian Duis points-wise.
And not only is he not being able to overcome 5 seconds, he's also being caught. The gap's down anyway from 9/10s to 8/10. So Gus Burton just has to sit there now and apply the pressure. As long as he's within 5 seconds, he's going to win. And as you rightly say, 5 seconds will put Cian Duis down into 5th place.
Yeah, and from looking like he's going to extend his points championship lead, all of a sudden, Will Martin now is going to find himself, despite finishing perhaps 3rd on the road, taking over the points lead, although he himself will be under a little bit of scrutiny for that overtake on Ollie White under the safety car. Is that Loggy again?
It is Ian Loggy off the road. Yeah, you can see the damage from earlier on when he got involved with Nigel Rice. So just like last year when the races were affected by penalties, so it's going to be the same seemingly a year on as Theo Edgerton goes through, still fending off the Will Martin and Josh Malin battle. They've also switched over as well. So not only has Will Martin benefited, as you look at the replay of Ian Loggy just going straight on at the end of the pit straight.
And the problem is, of course, you don't get any more allowance for track limits in a longer race. So the race might be a 15-minute club race, or it might be a 40-minute Carrera Cup race. You're still not allowed any more extra track limits infringements. So almost inevitably, the results get changed at the end. It needs reviewing.
So, as the leaders go by, there is less than a lap time left in the race now. Cian Duis has gained a place on corrected times because he's put himself ahead of Josh Malin now. Josh, for his teammates' purposes, could do with speeding up again and notionally getting ahead of Cian Duis, therefore. But we're on the last lap, and Duis on the road leads, and he's 4th on corrected times.
Yeah, so on corrected times, he's just behind Martin. The gap between them is actually only 0.2 of a second, isn't it? So it's possible he could stretch this out a bit more.
He might just be able to get ahead of Martin, in fact, on this last lap if he really, really pushes. So for the last time, they wriggle their way up towards Hamilton. That's Gus Burton, who was going to inherit the win, seemingly, as both of them hook it wide over the curb. Yeah,
Duis was very wide there and lost a lot of time, so that attempt on this final lap to eke out a bit of extra time and perhaps pass Martin, I don't think is going to work.
And equally, if he's dropping time, it might drop him back behind Josh Malin, which would also help the car of Will Martin, who is desperate for points against Cian Duis. Down they come towards Brundle and Nelson once more, last lap. Gus Burton would quite like to win this on the road as well, wouldn't he? As the cars now turn into Brundle and Nelson, they go into the left, into the right. Burton is about as close as he needs to be.
Yeah, well, either way, it looks like Gus Burton's going to score his 2nd victory of the year, having scored his 1st one up at Knockhill last time out. Looks like another one's going to come his way.
So as the cars come down through Coram then, checkered flag at the ready. Cian Duis is going to win on the road. He's going to be mighty, mighty disappointed. And he won't, and that's another one off, and that's Will Martin, isn't it? As the cars have come through Coram, it looks like Martin has spun off at the very last couple of corners. So Cian Duis wins on the road. The race win is going to be won by Gus Burton. And Theo Edgerton takes 2nd, Josh Malin 3rd, Cian Duis 4th, and it was Will Martin that spun, and that is really significant for the championship. The lights go red, engine notes rise. When the lights go out, we go racing. Slightly hesitant start by Duis. Good getaway by Gus Burton from the outside of the front row.
So we've had Loggy and Rice off.
And Duis now is looking more like when rather than if. He gets the race lead. They're almost level. He's on the lights. There's contact. He's going to go through on the inside, and Cian Duis takes over the lead.
Duis has a black and white warning flag for track limits already.
And a 5-second penalty for the race leader for track limits. So the leader gets a time penalty. Cian Duis wins on the road. The race win is going to be won by Gus Burton. Also